Okay. Let's get into Odyssey, Book 7. Love Book 7. So I can turn my monitor a little more towards me. There we go. That's better. Beck is supervising. Yes, she is. All right. Everybody, if you've got your copy of the Odyssey, get it out with you. Or if you're just going to listen, great, excellent, settle in, get snacks. Although this is a pretty short book. So that's a plus. We should be able, though should likely be more hanging out, as this is, you know, less than 500 lines, this particular book. Although I do have a lot of notes, mainly because we, rather like last time, we got to deviate off on the Gigantomachia and, you know, detail all of that. This time we're going to be deviating off on some other characters, which leads you to more characters and all the characters. So many characters, so many things. Ready. About 10 pages. Yeah, it's a short book. This is a quick pit stop because then the next chapter or book is going to be basically partying with the Phaeacians. We're going to have a whole party with them. And then book 9 is when Odysseus basically starts telling his story. So we're almost at the part where Odysseus is going to go, bet you wonder how I got in this situation. Let me tell you. Release my own audiobook of the Odyssey. If I were to ever try and record something like that, you would just get peg snores the whole way. But also, would you want it with or without tangents? Probably without tangents. 2 books of setup for the party and story time within the story time. Exactly, Game Wizard. You know, this is the story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. That's literally kind of how Odysseus starts. Ooh. Hands, oh, dorked. I don't envy you. Hands are the devil for art. And this is how my cons have quenched. Funny, achromatic, I like it. All right. Yucky dear. No, the tangents are the point. Book 8 is the Phaeacians throwing a frat party. I mean, basically, it's the most insane party. You'll even get a whole micro-narrative in there about Hephaestus and Aphrodite and Ares, and a bed and a net, which is great. Are you kidding? With tangents. Sing, O muse of the dumbest smart boy. It's true. Wish I could spoiler on here like you can in Discord. Yeah. The story is the tangents we make. Extra cost for tangents. So basically, you would want me to sit down and do one of these live streams, but like without the chat, so I'm not answering questions and just reading and referring to notes and deviating. Oh my god, I would have to make sure I was on my ADHD meds or I would be so off topic. DLC bad tangents. All right. Book 7. I'd give carrots for tangents. Book 7. Phaeacia's halls and gardens. We left off. Odysseus was in the birthday suit. He was covering his man bits with an olive tree branch. He spoke to Nausicaa, who is yet another example of having a girl dad in Alcinous. And Odysseus was like, crap, okay, well, I need help. I'm gonna have to introduce myself to this young girl who's probably unmarried, if I had to guess, and I'm naked. Great. And he has to decide whether or not he does the whole supplication, which is kind of a ritual type gesture and move, which would involve him grabbing her knees and like wrapping his arms around them, which would be really awkward if someone saw him do that while he was naked, as you can imagine. Yeah, it's really not book club until the peg snores start. So, and part of the thing again, also with doing the supplication is it puts a sort of moral imperative upon the person receiving that gesture. Like they feel like they have to help you, and he doesn't want that because he really wants to keep in the good graces of the people on this strange island that he's never been to. Since he's obviously, had some run-ins with people. He's trying to keep himself in good books as long as he can because he does need help. And I'm naked. Great, exactly. Great. Greek. Greek. It ain't gonna be the first time. It ain't gonna be the last time Odie is naked while he's doing wild things. Yeah, it would make for an awful first impression. But, so he basically kind of charms Nausicaa, and you could argue he flirts, but it's more that he flatters her so that she agrees to help him. Athena helps give him an absolute magical makeover while he goes and washes himself off because he's filthy. And Nausicaa says, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back, but we're not gonna go back at the same time. I'm gonna go on ahead, you know, I've got my little donkey and cart and my handmaidens. We're gonna go back here on the way. Here's this cool like temple place I need you to hang out in. Wait for a bit until you're pretty sure I'm back. Then you're gonna come to my palace and you got to go to my mom. Like, my mom is the one you need to charm. And it really, this forever just makes me think of that line in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where it just goes, oh, the man is, the man is the head of the house, but the woman is the neck. And the neck can turn the head any way she wants. So it's like, you get my mom, you'll get my dad. Honestly, Nausicaa is kind of clever. She kind of knows what she's doing. Yeah. I'm an English major from an Asian country. I was much with the classics and fit something. So oh, you're welcome, the blob. An English major from an Asian country. That's got to be pretty wild. So, yeah, I'm not available, but want to meet my mom. Well, actually, Nausicaa does seem to have a bit of a crush on Odysseus, but she's mostly just saying, you need to get my mom on your side to want to help you, and then my dad will help you. Which, okay, sure, he's the king, but the queen is the power behind the throne here, which is totally fine. So last we then left, Odysseus had made his way to this temple, and Athena is sort of watching, and we do know Poseidon is lurking, like just off screen, fuming that Odysseus made it to the Phaeacians, because he does know this kind of means Odysseus is absolutely going to get home. There's kind of nothing he can do, and he's still mad though. So trust me, Poseidon will come back into play, but not really so much with Odysseus. Phaeacians are gonna find out some shit about Poseidon though, yikes. Yeah, so we need Odysseus to make his way to the palace. That's our goal right now. Odysseus gets to the palace and he's gotta make nice with the queen, who can then help him make nice with the king. Cranky Poseidon, always. Poseidon's just a cranky guy. Now, as Odysseus, long in exile, prayed in Athena's grove, the hardy mule team drew the princess toward the city. Reaching her father's splendid halls, she reined in, just at the gates, her brothers clustering round her, men like gods, aka, once again, they're hot, y'all. Homer will tell you if they're hot. Also, Nausicaa makes a lot more sense when you understand she's like the youngest sister, kind of like, I think it's implied she's the youngest, I can't remember off the top of my head, but she's got a ton of brothers. I think she makes more sense when you realize she's just got a ton of brothers. If anybody's got brothers. I mean, I'm the oldest and I have 2 younger brothers, but like, I kind of understand her when I realize she's got brothers. Men like gods. Homer showing his kink or preference either. Just hot men. Hot men everywhere. Released the mules from the yoke and brought the clothes indoors as Nausicaa made her way toward her bedroom. There, her chambermaid lit a fire for her. Eurymedusa, the old woman who'd come from Epiraya years ago, when the rolling ships had sailed her in, and the country picked her out as King Alkinoos's prize. For he ruled all the Phaeacians. They obeyed him like a god. Now, let's not get this mistaken in that they don't worship him like a god. He's not treated like a god, but that he is their king. What he says, they do. It's typical rulership. I just didn't want anyone to get confused by the fact it is said like a god. We're not actually comparing him to the gods, just he's in charge. That's your king. It's good to be the king, kind of thing. Homer's just the director of the Odyssey, reassuring us that he hired hot actors. Oh yeah. How you know this place is a utopia? Hot men everywhere. Once she had nursed the white arm princess in the palace. Now she lit a fire and made her supper in the room. At the same time, Odysseus set off toward the city. Pallas Athena, harboring kindness for the hero, drifted a heavy mist around him, shielding him from any swaggering islander who'd cut across his path, provoke him with taunts, and search out who he was. So it's a utopia, but there's assholes everywhere. We love it. And always a kind of sense of the not always great treatment of the outsider or the other. Akuo listen and anaso to rule. Yup, no worship here. Excellent. Obviously, we all love, it's like everyone clap for Mariana in the chat, back-checking anything I say based on the OG Greek. I know she took a ton of notes for this book, as always. There will always be audacious men in the streets. Absolutely true. Wouldn't be a Greek tale if there isn't an asshole here and there, even random ones. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Oh yes, claps in the chat for Mariana. Yeah, Athena's frankly just making his moment easier. She's like, look, I don't want you sidetracked. You've been sidetracked for 10 years at this point. Let's get this show on the road. Right. Mariana, our chef, it's true. She be cooking. Always cooking. Also, indeed, the whole part about search out who he was, we're gonna see that Odysseus only tells so much about his identity. It is crucial to him that he play all of the details of himself kind of close to the chest, because he's being careful. Obviously, he's in a foreign land. Instead, as he was about to enter the welcome city, the bright-eyed goddess herself came up to greet him there, for all the world like a young girl, holding a pitcher, standing face to face with the visitor who asked, "Little girl, now, wouldn't you be my guide to the palace of the one they call Achilles, the king who rules the people of these parts? I am a stranger, you see, weighed down with troubles, come this way from a distant, far-off shore, so I know no one here, none at all in your city and the farmlands round about." "Oh yes, sir, good old stranger," the bright-eyed goddess said. "I'll show you the very palace that you're after. The king lives right beside my noble father. Come, quietly too, and I will lead the way. Now, not a glance at anyone, not a question. The men here never suffer strangers, gladly, have no love for hosting a man from foreign lands." Again, part of why Odysseus will start playing a lot of his identity much closer to the chest, which he kind of already is to begin with. But as we know, this is presented as a kind of utopic society, but they are very insular, they are very isolated, and they've done so deliberately. So again, not super nice to outsiders and foreigners. Part of why Athena is here helping him along is she's basically smoothing the way so he can achieve his goal. It's true. We do all know how it turned out last time when he gave, his identity, address, and social security number to a random dude he pissed off. Athena is, look, when you are favored by a god, they will, when they necessary, try to help you. In this case, Athena is giving quite a lot of help to Odysseus, but it's with the understanding that, one, she really does need him to get back to Ithaca quickly. We spent those first 4 books setting up Telemachus and Ithaca and why it's an imperative for him to get back quickly. Ithaca is currently a powder keg, and it's getting ready to explode. He needs to get back, and soon. And it has also been so long that she's like, okay, yeah, no, we're gonna get the show on the road. Time to speed this along. All they really trust are their fast-flying ships that cross the mighty ocean. Gifts of Poseidon. Ah, what ships they are. Quick as a bird, quick as a darting thought. Which we will see how quick these ships are. I noted they were almost steered by thought. It's more like you think where you want to go and it just kind of gets you there. These are magic ships. They're gifts from Poseidon. It's the reason these guys are so into their ships. Yeah, I may be immortal, but this is taking forever. That is exactly what Athena thought, but by this point, again, it's the imperative is you gotta get back to Ithaca. Although she will, of course, let him tell his story, which will all tie into Cleos and kind of his legend and all of that, because nobody knows what has happened to him all this time, pretty much except for the gods. And the dead, I guess, but they're not telling anybody. Yeah, Athena isn't leaving anything to chance or allowing for the chance of Odysseus to screw it up. basically. And Pallas Athena sped away in the lead as he followed in her footsteps, man and goddess. But the famed Phaeacian sailors never saw him, right in their midst, striding down their streets. Athena, the one with lovely braids, would not permit it. The awesome goddess poured an enchanted mist around him, harboring kindness for Odysseus in her heart. And he marveled now at the balanced ships and havens. The meeting grounds of the great lords and the long ramparts loomed, coped and crowned with palisades of stakes. An amazing sight to see. And once they reached the king's resplendent halls, the bright-eyed goddess cried out, "Good old stranger, here is the very palace that you're after. I've guided you all the way. Here you'll find our princes, dear to the gods, busy feasting. You go on inside. Be bold, nothing to fear. In every venture, the bold man comes off best, even the wanderer bound from distant shores. The queen is the first you'll light on in the halls. Arete she is called, and earns the name. She answers all our prayers. She comes, in fact, from the same stock that bred our king Cleos. First came Nausicaa, son of the earthquake god Poseidon and Peribea, the lovely, matchless beauty, the youngest daughter of iron-willed Eurymedon, king of the overweening giants years ago. Which, yes, we talked all about this in the past book. The giants, the gigantomachia, all of this. Peg snores like a baby dragon, she does. So true. Lovely braids, the one with lovely braids, new epithet for Athena. Not necessarily a new epithet, more a description of the disguise she's taken. Braids were a very common hairstyle in the Bronze Age. So just saying they had lovely braids means your hair looks good. It really doesn't mean anything other than that. It's not really an epithet, more a descriptor. He led that reckless clan to its own ruin, killed himself in the bargain. But the Sea Lord lay in love with Peribea, and she produced a son, Nausicaa, that lionheart who ruled Phaeacia well. Now Nausicaa had two sons, Rhexenor and Alcinous. But the lord of the silver bow, Apollo, shot Rhexenor down, married, true, yet still without a son in the halls. As for why Apollo shot Rhexenor down, I have no idea. I couldn't remember, and I was like, man, is this something I've just forgotten? I went and looked and could not find an answer for it. I don't know, Apollo just got petty. We don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I looked for a source and couldn't find a source with anything to tell me why Apollo did this. Apollo? Petty? Shocking. Yeah. So I got no answer as to why he killed Rhexenor other than because. Homer's headcanon. Not even Homer's headcanon. It's just like there's no other story about it that I could find. So like I have no answer for it at all. That's the real thing. Peg, are you getting hot? Yeah, you're getting hot up here. Do you want to go lie back down? No. Okay. Do gods just randomly murk for no reason? No, it's rare. That's why it's kind of odd that I can't find a reason. Usually a god will not kill a mortal in that way unless they did something, either to them or one of their family members, offended them in some way. And so it's just like the fact that I can't find a reason is just sort of odd. Maybe it's just a story that's sadly lost to time. Generally, Apollo's arrows were used to describe sickness and plague. Maybe that's it. They are sometimes, not always. Sometimes they just kill you, right? Like the dragon at Delphi. He doesn't cause it sickness, he just kills it. But you could see that maybe it's a way of saying Rhexenor got sick, but I'm not entirely sure. Isn't Arete like a form of excellence? I could be totally wrong. And that's probably a better question for Mariana. Hold on, I'm gonna look here. So actually the question about Arete, Becca here, I'm actually in the notes on the translation from Fagles, and he says, Arete she is called and earns the name, she answers all our prayers. The name brings to mind the Greek word aromai, pray, which suggests the meaning prayed for by her parents as well as prayed to, as we will see, by suppliants like Odysseus. Death of youth, that's probably related to a set of brothers and sisters that they slew. No, I got nothing here for Rexenor. I was hoping maybe he had a note for me on Rexenor. So, Rexenor is just a big question mark. He died. They say it was because of Apollo. Maybe it's meant to be a beautiful metaphor for being sick. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It is one I truly don't know. I could not find an answer because I looked. I was curious. I looked. I found nothing. He left one child behind, a daughter named Arete. Alcinous made the girl his wife and honors her as no woman is honored on this earth of all the wives now keeping households under their husband's sway. Such is her pride of place and always will be so. Dear to her loving children, to Alcinous himself and all our people. They gaze on her as a god, saluting her warmly on her walks through town. She lacks nothing in good sense and judgment. She can dissolve quarrels, even among men, whoever wins her sympathies. Truly, Arete is the true power here. Okay, hold on. Peg, this panting needs to stop. Will you please jump down? You're getting too hot up here. You need to go. The panting needs to stop. Okay? She gets whatever she wants. Yeah, so she's his niece. Yeah, don't ask questions. Don't ask questions. Yeah. Giving a short, succinct description of her man, but great detail about her mom. Now, her mom is the one who they adore and hold in high esteem. But it's cool to see actually this interesting contrast of queens and women in power, which you get in the Odyssey. Arete is beloved in the same way that, technically Penelope is. Unfortunately, she's just dealing with the suitors. And also, again, this is a utopic society. So, of course, she's beloved and adored. Gotta love the ancient incest. Yeah. Wait till you hit the kingdom of Iolus. Okay, no, Peg, you're too hot. You gotta come down. Come on. Up. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Mama. It's too hot up here for you. You're panting. It's too much. Most of the population is somehow related to Zeus or the gods. You don't need to look at me all pissed off. Thank you. I know, I'm being judged. The queen dethroned. Come here. Get in your bed. Just relax. Thank you. Mother betrays. She's panting too much. It's gotta happen. She's too hot. Yeah, her judgy face. That's a gentle judgy face, Peg. She gets too hot. I don't want her overheating. I know. I'm gonna suffer for this, I know. Come here. Good girl. Yeah, it's a good. Oh, there we go. Feeling much better. There you go. No. Let's see how long this lasts. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cows. I know. If only our queen will take you to her heart, then there's hope that you will see your loved ones reach your high-roofed house, your native land, at last. Peg is betrayed, mad will suffer, but chat is delighted. It's true. And with that vow, the bright-eyed goddess sped away over the barren sea, leaving welcome Scheria far behind, and reaching Marathon and the spacious streets of Athens, entered Erechtheus' sturdy halls, Athena's stronghold. Now, as Odysseus approached Alcinous' famous house, a rush of feelings stirred within his heart, bringing him to a standstill. Even before he crossed the bronze threshold, a radiance as strong as the moon or rising sun came flooding through the high-roofed halls of generous King Alcinous. Walls, is Peg miente? Mother, Ma'am? Ma'am. Can I help you? You're fine. Can you lie down, please? Oh, for God's sake. Try this again. Okay, well, I'm not putting the blanket up. That's clearly causing your problem. I'm convinced. If I snort, I know. She makes herself known. She would climb up, like put her front paws up, I can tell. Yeah, hi. Thank you. She does make her grievances known. Thank you. There we go. There we go. She will not be denied her throne, it's true. Walls plated in bronze, crowned with a circling frieze, glazed as blue as lapis, ran to left and right from outer gates to the deepest court recesses, and solid golden doors enclosed the palace. Crazy rich Greeks. Crazy rich Greeks. Up from the bronze threshold, silver doorposts rose, with silver lintel above and golden handles too. And dogs of gold and silver were stationed either side, forged by the god of fire with all his cunning craft, to keep watch on generous King Alkinous's palace. The god of fire with all his cunning craft is Hephaestus, if we could not guess. The dogs are statues. Yes, they are. They were created by Hephaestus. So we're really telling you that one, these guys are the gold door, blue lapis, silver, bronze, they rich, and they are obviously very favored by the gods, kind of in general. Yeah, they rich Greeks. This is absurdly wealthy, essentially. Not quite in the idea of like gaudy, but just like, oh shit, there's a lot of wealth here. His immortal guard dogs, ageless all their days, inside to left and right in a long unbroken row from farthest outer gate to the inmost chamber, thrones stood backed against the wall, each draped with a finely spun brocade, women's handsome work. Here the Phaeacian lords would sit enthroned, dining, drinking. The feast flowed on forever, and young boys, molded of gold, set on pedestals standing firm, were lifting torches high in their hands to flare through the nights and light the feasters down the hall. This passage confused me, though. I found out there were two versions of the Greek text. It's like, what? Yeah, I've heard something about this, Mariana, but it's escaping me right now. It is, can you pay for commissions from the gods? Not really. It's the god chooses to bestow this kind of shit upon you, and usually for some sort of reason, like you've done something to seriously earn their favor. You are then kind of expected to pay them, if you will, pay the gods for their work, usually in the form of really good sacrifices and thanks and festivals and what have you. It's part of why Poseidon inevitably turned on the Trojans, because he assists alongside Apollo. Both were foundational in building the walls at Troy, but they didn't really give Poseidon the honors he felt he deserved compared with Apollo. Obviously, they didn't piss him off. They did fine by him, but not by Poseidon, and so Poseidon was pissed about it. Yeah, another step in the Ithaca, Pylos, Sparta. Oh, they rich line. Exactly. You can give offering shards up to the gods if they keep favoring you, really. Yeah, it's really all up to the gods. Troy did not give him, they didn't give him the credit. He was like, hello, what the fuck? Are you stupid? Yes, they were. They paid for it later. Midas is jealous. Why do the Phaeacians have so much of the gods' favor? This seems like a lot. That's a good question. Part of it is they are related, obviously, to Poseidon, related to the giants and the Gigantomachia, and it is just, and in the previous book, when we were told about, I believe it was the previous book, yes. When we were told about how they came to this island of Scheria, how, they were being bothered by some Cyclopes or some Cyclops who lived near them, that they eventually found this island and they built these huge walls to essentially keep people out, but they also erected these massive, lavish temples to all the gods. And that got them a lot of favor. So like their first priority really was the temples, proper duty to the gods, and then also keeping other people out so they could maintain this kind of as a utopia in their belief. So it really is the fact that they built all these temples with these high walls and all these accoutrements, these gorgeous temples to the gods all over the place, that the gods are like, oh shit, that's fancy. you. So they obviously blessed it, like Hephaestus said, hey, thanks, I'll give you some really cool handiwork. And Poseidon was like, well, you are also related to me in addition to the fact you are showing me great sacrifices in a beautiful temple and you worship me in all this great way. Here are these ships that are fast as thought. So whenever you ask the question, are you stupid? The answer is usually an emphatic yes. Oh, hold on, Mariana, what were you saying? Not that it changes much. The Italian one I have has the anaphora explicit golden doors, silver stuff, gold, and other stuff. Ah. The one in Perseus is different placement for a bunch of words, so that structure is less evident. Ah, yes. I know the Perseus or the Perseus version, it's a certain version. Anyway, sorry, we're nerding out over the Greek text, which obviously I can't read, but I know like little bits about it. Polyphemus is Poseidon blood too. Where his golden sheep? Well, where is the temple to Poseidon? That's again part of the thing with the Cyclops, kind of the monstrous other. This is an example of like what the Greeks say, you are civilized, you are society. It'd be at least 22 times as heavy as the same doors to Salomon. Yeah, no, golden doors would be heavy as shit. Ruby, it's so true. Ridiculously heavy. Is this just to emphasize the utopian theme? It is also emphasizing that it's utopia. Like, look how rich they are. Like, oh my god. No gold sheep, only hunting. It's only Poseidon somebody wants a sick daddy on someone who was mean to him. Yeah, don't honor properly, you don't get those sweet, sweet divine boons. It's so true. Yeah, we wouldn't want to give proper credit to one of the more mercurial gods whose various epithets include Earthshaker and Stormbringer. I'm sure this will work out fine. It's like, but we need the gold doors for the vibes. Yeah, it is also part of the vibes. Like, this is meant to dazzle Odysseus. I mean, well, it's meant to dazzle anyone who sees it, but like specifically because we're following Odysseus. Like, we are trying to dazzle both Odysseus and the person who would be sitting listening to the story. They'd be like, they had what now? And Alcinous has some 50 serving women in his house. Some, turning the handmill, grind the apple yellow grain. Some weave at their webs or sit and spin their yarn, fingers flickering quick as aspen leaves on the wind, and the densely woven woolens dripping oil droplets. Just as Phaeacian men excel the world at sailing, driving their swift ships on the open seas, so the women excel at all the arts of weaving. That is Athena's gift to them beyond all others. A genius for lovely work and a fine mind, too. So yes, the women are weavers. Again, weaving, a very womanly task. A part of why Penelope can weave the shroud for like 3 to 4 years and get away with it. Men don't know jack shit about weaving, and it's a woman's thing. Normally they do alone in the company of other women only, because why would a man be there weaving? Yeah, considering how much time we spent talking about the dazzle now. Yeah, exactly. Dazzle. Bring on the old razzle dazzle, razzle dazzle. Basically, we're razzle dazzling them. Outside the courtyard, fronting the high gates, a magnificent orchard stretches 4 acres deep, with a strong fence running round it side to side. Here, is weaving specifically connected to Athena? Is it an intellectual pursuit too? It is very specifically related to Athena. She is a goddess who's tied directly with weaving. It's why you get the story of her and Arachne. And it is kind of an intellectual pursuit. I mean, you have to know exactly what you're doing. It takes an element of creativity. So your brain really works when you're creating anything, but weaving most certainly. Yes, weaponizing the stereotypes attached to your gender, my beloved, that is Penelope. 0 days since last Chicago reference. That's the ADHD at work. Random songs pop into the head. Amazed by the multiple gods blessing here as well. Yes, well, we already knew, we knew Poseidon kind of coming in, hence with all their ships. We knew Athena. I mean, Odysseus was hanging out in a grove that was essentially, they built to honor and be sacred to Athena. Now we're finding out Hephaestus, and it's just like, oh my god, who doesn't favor you here? Like, oh my goodness. Yeah, Arachne messed up real bad. She did, and she got punished for it. Creatively. Yeah, weaving is hard. Yeah, book club is populated with the neurodivergent. We're all neurospicy here, basically, I'm assuming. You done messed up, right? Oh my god. Shut up, Game Wizard, I love you. Yeah. Did any creative punishment given to that traitor made? You mean Melanto? We're going to talk more about Melanto when we come back to Ithaca near the end of the story, because we're actually going to meet her and see her. And I'll talk about her fate as well as, obviously, others when we're going through the slaughter of the suitors, because we find out there. True creation is a battlefield, it's true. AR Acne is so mean, but I gotta go. No, that's good. I'm annoyed at how good it is. Outside, oh wait, I already read that bit. Here, luxuriant trees are always in their prime. Again, it's a utopia, so everything's always in season, always. Pomegranates and pears and apples glowing red, succulent figs and olives swelling, sleek and dark. And the yield of all these trees will never flag or die, neither in winter nor in summer, a harvest all year round. For the west wind, always breathing through, will bring some fruits to the bud, and others warm to ripeness. Pear mellowing ripe on pear, apple on apple, cluster of grapes on cluster, fig crowding fig. And here is a teeming vineyard planted for the kings. Beyond it, an open level bank where the vintage grapes lie baking to raisins in the sun while pickers gather others. Some they trample down in vats, and here in the front rows bunches of unripe grapes have hardly shed their blooms, while others under the sunlight slowly darken purple. And there, by the last row, are beds of greens, bordered and plotted, greens of every kind, glistening fresh year in, year out. At last, there are two springs, one rippling in channels over the whole orchard, the other, flanking it, rushes under the palace gates to bubble up in front of the lofty roofs where the city people come and draw their water. Such were the gifts, the glories showered down by the gods on King Alkinoos' realm. Yeah, it's a utopia. Like, if that wasn't clear, it's a utopia. Nothing goes wrong here. Kind of until Odysseus shows up, but I guess we're not there yet. Pomegranate question, do we know why that specifically was tied to the underworld? Is there something about pomegranates that just say death fruit? I know it has to do with the fact that it was growing in the underworld, but let me take a moment here. Anybody else want to head there for vacation? Yeah, do they have openings? Reservations? Let's see here. History. The pips look like jewels? Yeah, the pips do look like jewels. Could be, like, that's a thought. Their name means essentially like seeded apple. I'm looking. I'm trying to see if there's anything older that would... Interesting. Linked in Assyria, Iran. Ancient city of Citeos, Pamphila. Figures in multiple fruits. In ancient... Oh, that's why. Wait, although who said that myth? Hold on. I think I have an answer for you. Just give me a second while I'm back checking a source on a particular myth. I don't need to know about his hero cult. That's Servius. Do we have non? Do I have a non-Roman source? I'm sure there is. Okay, so the reason, although I've heard various versions of this. This might just be a version that I don't know. It has to do with the death of Adonis. About where his blood fell and what sprang from there, whether it be like anemones type of flower, or roses, or even in some cases pomegranates. Kind of depends who you ask. So right now a lot of the sources I'm seeing are Roman, though I'm wondering if they are based on some, though obviously this is an idea that has been tied to pomegranates since the Greeks. There must be an ancient Greek source that maybe is just gone now. Robert Graves. That might be why they were associated. Oh, here we go. Pausanias, who's a good Greek source, about the pomegranate, I must say nothing, for its story is somewhat of a holy mystery. So it could, yeah, it seems it is linked to it. We just kind of don't have too much there. And Adonis is, yeah, it's kind of higgledy-piggledy, really. Seems we're not, that's where it is believed to have been known as the fruit of the dead, but we're not sure. And obviously it is featured with Persephone. I got no good proper answer for you, and I can't really find a source that is satisfying enough for me to, like, properly go with it. So I got nothing for you. I'm so sorry as to why. I'm sure it's related to a myth. Probably a myth we've just sort of lost to time, as would be the case. Pomegranate is a cult secret. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it is very much, it was a cult secret. Like, out of the pomegranate, I cannot speak of it. It's a holy mystery. So, really, I think it might be related to some sort of specific, like, religious cult. Maybe some sort of, you can look at, like, the Eleusinian mysteries, the Eleusinian mysteries. So it could be related to, like, a mystery cult, and it was prolific enough that it seeped into the lore, but we've just kind of lost the sourcing on it. Yeah, sorry, I wish I could give you a good answer, but I had to look. I have a fear about the rose pomegranates of Mariana. Was it that's mostly a Roman thing? I was finding mostly Servius's commentary on the Iliad, which is why I was like, I don't want to use that. The pomegranate, so far as I know, is not related to Hera. I've never seen it related to Hera. But you will find art of pomegranates on a lot of stuff from Greece. So it's not, just because it's on art doesn't mean it's always associated with that specific god or character in question. They just, like, use it all over the place in art. Yeah, secret cults keep their secrets. No, really, so the idea of religious cults in ancient Greece, it was extremely common. And let's also, so this is a fun thing, we will tangent on this briefly, to think about in terms of religion and how it was practiced in ancient Greece and all the different ages of ancient Greece. What line are we on specifically? Where we deviated off on that? We are around line, like, just after 150. But we're taking a brief break so we can kind of explain why we've got stuff like mystery cults and all sorts of stuff. So religion in ancient Greece, like, one, they didn't have something like, say, Christianity has the Bible, right? Like, you've got your one book that tells you all the stories, and, like, there you go, you've got it. Greece didn't have that. It's why you get so many variations on the myth, and why things like the epics, and then later you get into stuff like the Athenian tragedies. They occupy an interesting space where they're kind of considered sacred works. I mean, for those who don't know, the whole reason we have those Athenian tragedies, like why those playwrights were writing those plays, was part of a religious festival that was held every year, where they would, these tragedians, these playwrights would write a trilogy of tragedies, and they would put, and also usually a satyr play, and they would just put them on, and they would be competing to see who would get the top prize. So it was a sacred event to do this. And also the way that they were judged was, it was essentially people were picked from the crowd at random on the last day, and after everything had already gone, and they would be the ones to judge that year who would take first prize. It's super interesting when you learn how much all of these stories were integrated with the religious aspects, because also, an even more important thing to note, and this explains a little of how, if we can cast our minds back to book 3, when we went to go see Old King Nestor, and we saw the whole thing of them sacrificing bulls and sacrificing, like, heifers and the like. The way that is described in Homer, while it's pretty specific to us, like, we're going, wow, you're going into some good amount of detail of how they're chopping this thing up and what they're doing. It's actually, to the Greeks, would have been a really vague description. Very familiar, but vague, and that's because the practicing of the religions, like how they went about their rites, how they would go about their festivals and everything else, was highly regionalized. localization was a big thing with how the Greeks practiced religion. Each city-state would have their own variances and differences in how they went about practicing and their worship, right? And it's not like, I mean, again, it's not like there was a book anybody could refer to. So Homer actually very deliberately keeps it super vague because he doesn't want to like give away that like, oh, I'm from this region and that's how we do it, but I'm describing a completely different region of Greece and they might do it differently and he might not know how exactly they go about and do that. So he keeps it vague, keeps the broad strokes of how somebody would go about sacrificing this animal, but doesn't go into any sort of regional, local specifics. And that's part of why you end up with things like these mystery cults. And the mystery cults, again, were not universal. They were in like very specific regions. And they would have their own special ways of going out about things. Did you say Adonis? It seems it's Dionysus. I did say Adonis because we don't kill Dionysus, but we do kill Adonis. So Mariana, if you found something, please continue, like bless us with anything you've found in Greek that I cannot read. But that's the thing, again, with part of why everybody else is like, oh, well, why didn't they just have like one standard set of myths and do all that? It's like, well, it was really regional. Again, Greece as a concept isn't really there. The closest you get is this idea of the Hellenes, aka the Greek-speaking peoples, but they are all very regional and localized. So everybody had their own way of going about things, and why then you also have all these different kind of cults worshiping all sorts of different gods or even heroes. There's absolutely the idea of the hero cult, which plays a big part in Greek culture, but will vary from city-state to city-state. So it's not even just like per region, it's like per city-state would have their own way of going about things. So it's why you get so many inconsistencies, if you will, and also why you get elements of like sacrifice, and why we actually really don't have, like, for us, again, it seems specific because we're not doing animal sacrifices in the style of ancient Greece in that way, but why Homer would be like, all right, I'm gonna describe an animal sacrifice, but keep it to the broad strokes that are reasonably universal in that way. And yeah, also why, again, you can just end up with stuff kind of getting lost to time. It might have come from a very specific region of Greece, a specific city-state, and that record just kind of got lost, and it filtered its way out and around, and maybe some places adopted it and some others didn't. And also just a lack of written record, because so much of this was told orally. And again, because we don't have like a Bible or something we can refer to and go, aha, this is how you go about making a sacrifice to this particular god in this order. Nobody had one of those. Those didn't exist. So, fun fact, that's our tangent on ancient Greek religion, in a long-winded way of saying, like, the reason sometimes it can be hard to find the source on things going all the way back, it's like, well, there are all these things in your way, and like there to impede you in your quest for specific answers like that. It's why eternally my motto is always, it depends, or I'm not sure. And why I always try to backtrack some kind of source. So it's great. Wait, what is the new book? Oh God, what's the new book club motto? Here we hunger for knowledge and thirst. You're all menaces. A crowd of menaces. That's what I'm gonna say. Anywho. Well, yeah, I hope that made some amount of sense and helps to clear up, well, not really clear up, explain why there is often confusion and narratives that are constantly contradicting each other all the time. Where you get... It's true, Mary, you do aim to be the menace in chief. You and Game Wizard are like my menaces in chief. Game Wizard usually for all the dad jokes. A group of Paganauts is called a menace of Paganauts. No, that feels right. That feels accurate. This is accurate. Okay. And there Odysseus stood, gazing at all this bounty, a man who'd borne so much. Once he'd had his fill of marveling at it all, he crossed the threshold quickly, strode inside the palace. Here he found the Phaeacian lords and captains, tipping out libations now to the guide and giant killer Hermes, the god to whom they would always pour the final cup before they sought their beds. Because, as I say, he's the guide, he's a psychopomp. Hermes is the one who will escort you to the underworld when you die. So, pour him your final cup, because he's gonna be probably the last one you talk to and see. Odysseus went on, striding down the hall, the man of many struggles, shrouded still in the mist. Athena drifted around him, till he reached Arete and Alcinous the king. And then, the moment he flung his arms around Arete's knees, the god-sent mist rolled back to reveal the great man, and silence seized the feasters all along the hall. Also, can you imagine? You're feasting, and like maybe you see a bit of mist coming in and you don't think much about it, then all of a sudden the mist clears and there's just a random dude that none of you know being like making the suppliant gesture at your queen. They're like, no wonder it went dead silent. They all were like, what the fuck just happened? Huh? Yeah. Yes, you really feel more sympathy for this Odysseus than epic Odysseus because the story tells you he suffered rather than him telling you he suffered. Yes, I mean, he will tell you he suffered, but the narrator is backing it up, basically. This omniscient third person kind of narrator character, the person who was telling the story, saying, no, he suffered. Like, you're gonna see, but he suffered. This is the suffering of Odysseus. It is true. A random man suddenly in my space, yeah. It just appears. They're all just like, the fuck? But it is important that he is obviously doing the very formal and kind of stylized, ritualized suppliant gesture. So it's clear it's not, he's not a harm, but it would be hella fucking confusing to everybody there. Yeah, they're all like, where the fuck did that guy come from? Do you know him? And nobody would know him too, because at this point they are a very insular people. They all pretty much know each other. Here's a random stranger appearing out of the mist, suddenly supplanting their queen. Yeah, imagine the open mouths, mid-bite, all of it. At least he's hot. Oh, God. God. Seeing him right before their eyes, they marveled, gazing on him now as Odysseus pleaded. Queen, Arete, daughter of godlike King Rhexenor, here after many trials I come to beg for mercy, your husbands, yours, and all these feasters here. May the gods endow them with fortune all their lives. May each hand down to his sons the riches in his house and the pride of place the realm has granted him. But as for myself, grant me a rapid convoy home to my own native land. How far away I've been from all my loved ones, how long I have suffered. Yeah, using his genealogy crash course well. He's a king. You gotta hear names, you gotta remember who's related to who. You gotta do it all yourself. Pleading so, the man sank down in the ashes just at the hearth beside the blazing fire, while all the rest stayed hushed, stock still. At last, the old revealed Achilles broke the spell. The eldest lord in Phaeacia, finest speaker too, a past master at all the island's ancient ways. Impelled by kindness now, he rose, and why sink into the ashes? He happens to be sitting near the fire, so he's doing it. Part of it, you could say, is the play acting, and that it makes him look even more pitiful. That, like, he's not just dropping to the floor, he's, like, dropping himself into the soot, into the ashes of the nearby fire. But really, it's just that it was just said she's going to be sitting near the fire, the ashes are nearby, so again, he's putting himself even lower. He's lowering himself into the dirt. He's making himself seem as pitiful and small as possible while he is, acting as a suppliant to the queen. It's all, look, presentation matters. There's always sneakiness to what Odysseus is doing. He obviously needs them to help him. So if he can make himself seem as pitiful as possible, while also seeming like, he seems like a reasonably noble-ish type man. They will then be like, wow, how did somebody who seems potentially kind of noble, who's a stranger, look at him lower himself down into the ashes. He's basically shooting for sympathy points. Wait, where's why is Fagels catching strays? Oh, just asking why he's in the ashes? I don't think that's Fagels catching strays. No. Jake, what did you say? Suffering, some really rolling level technical writing. Yo! Whoa now, Jake. Jake. We do not compare Homer in that way. Go sit about and think about what you've done. Mythological timeout. No, you're not in full mythological timeout. Mythological timeout is a special place only some people go when they do things like a windbag jetpack. Or make an Olympian say please to a mortal. It was a response to a joke someone made in the chat. Okay, so long as we're not Fagels catching strays. Fagels and Homer do not catch strays. Just a poor hot little guy. Exactly. Nobody's in mythological timeout yet. Thus far, I've only ever had to put one person in mythological timeout, as we well know. Is Jorge allowed out after the challenge? He's on parole after the challenge. Some people are currently on parole for what they did. Double secret probation, exactly. Parole contingent on good behavior, exactly. Impelled by kindness now, he rose and said, "This is no way, Alcinous. How indecent look your guest on the ground, in the ashes by the fire. Your people are holding back, waiting for your signal. Come, raise him up and seat the stranger now in a silver-studded chair, and tell the heralds to mix more wine for all, so we can pour out cups to Zeus, who loves the lightning, champion of suppliants. Suppliants' rights are sacred. And let the housekeeper give our guest his supper, unstinting with her stores." So again, part of why he didn't do this with Nausicaa is he doesn't know her. She is a young woman, and he's only doing this because she suggested it. It does put a moral imperative upon the person receiving a suppliant, as he says here. Zeus is the one who looks out for suppliants, similarly to how Zeus is the one who kind of oversees Xenia. In the ashes by the fire, ma'am, he sat there himself. Sir, yeah, he did. It was all a part of the plan. He knew it would make him look even more pathetic and pitiful. Is it bad form that he said this before waiting for the king to speak? No. So it is noted, he's an elder, the Achilles. He's the eldest lord in Phaeacia. He's known as the finest speaker. It does seem that a lot of them are called kings and kind of lords, and even though Alcinous is their high king, it's pretty clear everybody's been kind of struck dumb in this moment, and so he's trying to basically break the tension, and saying, "Whoa, Alcinous, come on, like snap out of it," but politely. So not bad form, not at all, because he's not really saying Alcinous is doing anything wrong. He's just like, yeah, no, let's do the thing we're supposed to be doing anyway. Old dudes. The guy knows ancient things, like Xenia. Nice framing, Homer. Exactly. Again, Xenia. Themed throughout the whole fucking Odyssey. It's everywhere. The concept of one kingdom equals one king only really arose during the Middle Ages. Yes, it's a much more medieval concept. Obviously, as we had noted, way back when, talking about like Sparta had multiple kings, because Penelope's the daughter of a king, and Helen's the daughter of a king. I mean, technically she's the daughter of Zeus, but like Tyndareus, her mortal father, if you will. They were both daughters of kings of Sparta. You might have a like sort of high king, if you will, one who's generally kind of ruling the roost, but multiple kings. Yeah, exactly. As Mariana says, he's a hero and a wise old man. He has enough credit, respect to speak. And you do see this in Ithaca as well. Like when Telemachus holds his quorum, and all of these other lords are speaking. So it's absolutely not totally out of line. Yeah, Helen is the daughter of a king and the daughter of the king. Ancient Britain. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. You had multiple kingdoms in Britain. You know, Wessex, Sussex, Essex, Northumbria, and, Wales, and the Mercia, and all of those different kingdoms, exactly. Behave yourself, yeah. Yeah, Xenia is essentially fucking behave yourself. I mean, obviously it is highly ritualized, and there are certain ways, and you have to go about it kind of specifically in a way, again, with the ritual element in ancient Greece, but it's the basic idea of fucking behave yourself. On both sides, host to guests and guests to hosts. Hearing that, Alcinous, poised in all his majesty, took the hand of the seasoned, worldly wise Odysseus. Were they pouring out wine to the godson? What? The godson, the third floor? Stephanie, I am lost as to what that reference is. Sorry. Hearing that, Alcinous, poised in all his majesty, took the hand of the seasoned, worldly wise Odysseus, raised him up from the hearth, and sat him down in a burnished chair, displacing his own son, the courtly lord Damas, who had sat beside him, the son he loved the most. A maid brought water soon in a graceful golden pitcher, and over a silver basin tipped it out so the guest might rinse his hands, then pulled a gleaming table to his side. A staid housekeeper brought on bread to serve him, appetizers aplenty too, lavish with her bounty. As long-suffering great Odysseus ate and drank, the hallowed king Alcinous called his herald. Come, Pontonous, mix the wine in the bowl, pour rounds to all our banqueters in the house, so we can pour out cups to Zeus, who loves the lightning, champion of suppliants. Suppliants' rights are sacred. When they pour out wine to the gods, was it in a certain place? No, it seems to have just sort of like been poured out like from wherever you're sitting or wherever you are in that moment. I don't think there was a designated spot we pour the wine. Maybe in certain regions there was, but it seems here, no. So yes, they are essentially pouring it onto the floor. Just basically the space in front of them, it seems. Pour one out for the homies. Just pour out a libation. At that, Pontonous mixed the heady, honeyed wine and tipped first drops for the god in every cup, then poured full rounds for all. So yeah, on the floor, in this case, pouring it actually into the cup. So the libation is you pour like a bit for the gods, you wait a second, then you pour more, and that is for you. If you gave me a super chat, she'll get the money. Lovable. I don't want to say that name. It feels so mean to say it. Lovable idiot. Yes, if you super chat, the money does go to me. Where was I at? I can speak. Yeah, ancient version of pouring one out for them. Mix the wine in the bowl. Omen, important to remember, wine was always cut with water. That was sort of the civilized thing to do. It's why when we eventually get to Polyphemus, the whole thing with the super wine extract 3000 is that he just gives him the super wine extract 3000, which would probably kill any person who drank it, just like immediate death by alcohol poisoning. It was the civilized thing to cut wine with water, and it was usually pretty potent, so you were doing it not just because you considered it civilized, but also because it was just like, we like to not die of alcohol poisoning. It also meant when you traveled and you were carrying wine with you, a little bit of this wine in a flask went a long way because you were constantly cutting it with water. I've read the Odyssey, but not the Iliad yet, so what is the difference? Essentially, I've heard that Odysseus and Penelope make an entrance at some point. In the Iliad, The Iliad is a completely different epic. It takes place well before the Odyssey. It's essentially a snapshot of like 1 week during the final year of Troy. Penelope does not appear. She is not a part of the story. But Odysseus does appear. He's an active player. We watch basically a whole bunch of big Greek men throw big Greek tantrums with their big Greek feelings while killing each other viciously. And it's a game of pick your favorite war criminal because everybody sucks. It's great. It's just also it's kind of a much more sad story than the Odyssey is. It's not very triumphant a story. So that's the difference. The Iliad is a story of part of the war at Troy. It needs to be diluted. Yes, I mean, it absolutely needs to be diluted. Wine was incredibly strong. Yeah, the wine was really only safe when diluted. It's true. Again, part of what we will see when we get to Polyphemus is he doesn't spike it with Lotus, he just gives him undiluted wine, which is said to be notably even more potent and intense. And it's like, you're trying to kill him, I swear to God. But it's a Cyclops and they're huge, so. It's very fun, but everyone very much sucks. Yeah, you have to go in understanding that every of the Iliad, knowing, I mean, really, you should just go into Greek mythology, accepting that everyone is an asshole, and you're probably gonna have to choose whether or not you like them and for why. Thanks. Aww. Thank you, lovable. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I'm happy to nerd out with you guys and that you guys want to know. That brings me joy. Yeah, all of your mythologies basically pick your favorite war criminal. Except they're war criminal hipsters because war crimes weren't really invented yet. Wine was the hard liquor of the time. Yeah, it was wine and hard liquor all at once. When undiluted, absolutely. It's all the juicy drama you watch with snacks and or wine, but in no way want to be engaged in. Yeah, you didn't want to be. Well, actually, if you were back in the day and you were a man, you would want to be at the war at Troy. There's glory to be had, but in general, no. But thank you for that, lovable. I appreciate that. All right, we were mixing wine. We poured full rinds for all. I've heard of something. Yeah, Tiresias does at one point get turned into a woman. That's a different myth. When we get to Tiresias, trust me, we will talk about him. He's not going to show up till like book 11, I think, is when we hit the underworld. So you're 4 books ahead of me there. At once they'd poured libations out and drunk to their heart's content. Alcinous rose and addressed his island people. Hear me, lords and captains of Phaeacia. Hear what the heart inside me has to say. Now, our feast is finished. Home you go to sleep, but at dawn we call the elders in to full assembly, host our guest in the palace, sacrifice to the gods, and then we turn our minds to his passage home. So under our convoy, our new friend can travel back to his own land. No toil, no troubles. Soon, rejoicing, even if his home's a world away. And on the way, no pain or hardship suffered, not till he sets foot on native ground again. There in the future, he must suffer all that fate, with a capital F, by the way, capital F fate, and the overbearing spinners spun out on his lifeline the very day his mother gave him birth. Since we're speaking of fate, let's talk about the spinners. The spinners. These are the Moirai, aka the Fates. They are visualized as 3 women who are spinning thread. Obviously, as we now know, a common household occupation for Greek women. And they ensure that every being, mortal and divine, lives out their destiny as it is assigned to them, kind of by the universe, if you will. This destiny, in terms of mortals, spans the entirety of a mortal life, and it is represented as a thread spun from a spindle. Now, there are, if you want to talk about discrepancies, let's look at Hesiod and his work, The Theogony. In that one work, his kind of one of his magnum opuses, if you will. He has 2 really, but big one being The Theogony. He gives 2 different origins for the Moirai in his one work alone. So when I tell you everybody's got inconsistencies and discrepancies. And yes, not to be confused with the Grey Eye, who are a completely different set of characters. So, in The Theogony, First, you get, Hesiod will tell you that the Moirai are daughters of the primeval goddess Nyx, whose name means night, which makes them also the sisters of the Keres, who are known as the Black Fates, Thanatos, death, and Nemesis, aka retribution. But then he also says, in that same work, that they are daughters of Zeus and Themis, which therefore makes them sisters of Eunomia, who's lawfulness or order, Dike or Dike, justice, who we talked about several books back, and Irene, who is peace. And those three goddesses are known as the Horai, or the hours. We're going to talk about them in a second. Now, notice how Homer doesn't actually name the Moirai. He just calls them, capital F Fate, and calls them the Spinners. And he never names them in any of his work. But they do get names post-Homer. And that is obviously Clotho, spinner, Lachesis, a lotter, and she's the one who decides how long the thread should be, and Atropos, whose name translates to one who cannot be turned back, and she's the one who cuts the thread. Now, the name Moirai seems to come from the ancient Greek word moira, which is defined as like lots or destinies, kind of apportioners. It may also be related to other Greek words like meros, which means part or lot, and moros, which means fate or doom. Yay. Yeah, while the concept of, it's not really vengeance so much as retribution. There's a little bit more of a kind of like, it's justified semantics. But yes, on the same level as death and fate, absolutely. Now, the interesting thing about the Moirai, they are generally, teacher, I have a question on how destiny operates in Greek myth. Lemonade beer, ask your question. I saw the hands up emoji and that's how I knew to look. Well played. Go ahead and ask your question. Note about Moira, they are in your notes. Hold on. It's true, Mariana did give me notes that I looked at briefly. So ask your question, lemonade beer. Does that just make you a shandy? Sorry, bad jokes. While I go to the notes, the book 7. Here we go. This will be excellent. I see a reference to Achilles, and I think I know where this question is. Achilles says in the Iliad he could either stay home and live long or stay and die. Isn't it like two different destinies shaped by his choices? That is the interesting thing about fate. You do in a way kind of have a choice, but, the big but. I could say you could think about this how I talked about both Poseidon and Zeus presenting Odysseus with a choice that's not much of a choice. It's essentially, you have this choice, but it's pretty likely the way you're gonna go. So, back at 225. Okay, I will look at your notes in a second, Mariana, after I answer this question. So Achilles does kind of have a choice, but the likelihood of him making the choice to stay home is essentially slim to none. Because he is a Greek hero. He's chasing that Cleos and that glory, and he's being told he will get the glory of all glories if he goes to Troy, but you will die. And the interesting thing about that, now I get to be super nerdy, and I'll show you the book that I get to be super nerdy about, guys, which everybody in the Discord, everybody in the Discord knows that I'm obsessed with this book right now as I go through it, which is, I will also warn, this is a very dense, very much an academic text. It's not really for the layman. The Ancient Greek Hero in 24 Hours, Gregory Nagy. For those of you who don't know this name, Gregory Nagy is a professor of Greek literature and of comparative literature at Harvard. He's also their director for their Center of Hellenic Studies. He's a smart guy, if you will. I've actually seen his name before. He was quoted in my grandfather's book at one point, and I used that in a paper, so I quoted him via quoting my grandfather. And this book is all about essentially what is the Greek hero, what does the Greek hero mean, especially in the context of Greek literature. And he has literally 11 chapters spent on Homeric poetry alone, and a lot of them on the Iliad. But the question you're asking about fate, he actually addresses in here, and it relates to the Greek hero. It's so you're gonna get me, I'm gonna eventually just read part of this essentially out verbatim to you guys, because it is so
interesting to me and nerdy, and will help actually explain that question. So you can briefly talk about yourselves while I make sure I find the right section here. It's going to take me maybe a couple seconds to go through. Thankfully, I know I post-it flapped it. I'm looking for a particular aspect of Cleos and what this has to do. Here we go. I think that's it. I think I found it, but I could be wrong. Yes, we're pretty much here. Okay. The reason we have that whole thing, it has less to do with choice and more to do with how a Greek hero functions in these stories, and especially in the context of the Homeric epics, so Iliad and Odyssey. So Homer has his own kind of poetry and style to what he's doing, but this is a reflection of all the stuff that you get in other works, and really just kind of the idea of the Greek hero in general. So there is a point, really, this bit, and it says, here we go. The main hero of the Iliad is obviously Achilles. And this is the part I assume you're talking about, where he says, my mother Thetis, goddess with silver steps, tells me that I carry the burden of two different fated ways, leading to the final moment of death. If I stay here and fight at the walls of the city of the Trojans, then my safe homecoming will be destroyed for me, but I will have a glory. So he's basically saying that my safe homecoming, my nostos, this thing that Odysseus is on this whole time, will be destroyed for me, but I will have a glory. I will have Cleos that is imperishable. And the word used there is aptheton. So, Achilles has started to understand the consequences of his decision to reject the option of his safe nostos or homecoming, and is in the process of deciding to choose the other option, which is he will stay at Troy, continue to fight the war. Choosing this option will result in his death, and he's starting to understand that. In the fullness of time, he will be ready to give up his life in exchange for getting Cleos, this poetic glory described as lasting forever. Again, this is as close as mortals can get to immortality, right? Because obviously, death is something that is specific to humanity. The gods do not die. So the consolation prize, if you will, for his death is the Cleos, and specifically in this case, Nagi's saying that the Iliad is his Cleos, because Cleos is both glory, but that glory is tied to the songs, essentially, people sing about you. So something like the Iliad, this song, this epic poem, that in itself is the Cleos of Achilles, because we have it right there. So heroes have an obsession with the goal of dying the right way in order to be remembered forever in the glory of song. Absolutely obsessed with death. The hero's death is their defining moment. How they die, when and where they die. And so they are literally, as he says, they attempt to, as they call it, script the perfect timing of their own death. So for the Greek hero, the ultimate real life experience is not life, but death. And that's why it's like he has these two choices, but it's pretty clear he's going to choose to go to Troy. They're just saying, do you want to be a hero or do you not? That's sort of what that choice is. As it says even here, in some situations, as we will see in later chapters, death can even become an alternative of sex. Like, that is how much this meant to them. Like, especially the Greek hero. They are chasing, like, this idea of the perfect death, which is so wild. So death must be a defining moment of reality for the hero. It must not be feared, but welcomed, since the hero must ultimately achieve the perfect moment of a perfect death. So that's what they're really getting at there with the choice but not choice of Achilles. It's, do you want to be a hero or not? It's all dependent upon whatever choice you mean. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I can add to that. Here we go. So we end up where we started with the hero Achilles. He chooses Cleos over life itself, and he owes his heroic identity to this Cleos. If he did not choose to stay and to die, he would not be a hero. Therefore, there would be no songs about him. He would not have Cleos. He achieves the major goal of the hero, to have his identity put permanently on record through song. Yeah, for us, a common way to express this goal is to say, you'll go down in history, basically. Then the equivalent of this kind of history are these dramatic songs and poems. Yes, make you appreciate Get in the Water is why I freaked out over what Poseidon was telling Odysseus in Get in the Water. I was like, oh my god, what he's demanding of him is massive. That's how angry Poseidon is. I think I went back and added some to my description for my video of Get in the Water, where I like nerded out a bit on some of the stuff Nagi says with relation to that. So it's kind of an illusion of choice. He's fated just by the fact of being a hero. Because he chose to be a hero, yeah. It's really hard to turn your back on being a hero, because that idea of, like, you could almost call it like the Greek version of machismo in a way. Like, once you are kind of a hero, like, it's really hard to try and turn back, because you want to be remembered. You want to get as close as you can to immortality. So much of the war of Troy is like all about that in a way. So yeah, it's an illusion of choice. But that fate was put forth from basically when he was born, essentially. But his mother says, because his mother is like, doesn't want him to go, she wants him to live. And you're going to see an interesting, Achilles' interesting thoughts on that when we meet him in the underworld, because we will be meeting him in the underworld. Again, the underworld is the who's who of Greek heroes and characters who are, deceased. Achilles is one of the ones we will meet. And again, that's a huge part of the Iliad, but the way he feels about it when we meet him in the underworld is potentially different from how he viewed it in the Iliad. Are the Fates beholden to some higher identity forces ever talked about? Okay, Ruby, I'm gonna get back to the Fates now. Because that's actually a question that can be answered in my notes that I've got. So, generally, the Fates are considered to be above the gods in their roles as enforcers of fate. However, in some versions of the myth, Zeus is able to command them to a degree. It does seem, whether or not they're really beholden, they simply almost interpret what the universe, if you will, says is the fate. They kind of simply lay it out there, but it seems to exist outside of them, and nobody can really control that. So, Ruby, that was a great question. Now, they are included, obviously, in many other works. Plato actually includes them in his famous work, The Republic. Yes, Lemonade Beard, I'm glad those were some answers for you. Sorry, I know they went all over the place and I had to nerd out for you, but it was a great question that led me into a really cool concept. So Plato includes the Moirai in the Republic. He actually has them singing alongside the music of the Sirenes, or the Sirens, and they basically sing of, to quote Galadriel, things that were, things that are, and some things that have not yet come to pass. Literally, that's almost the exact phrasing that I saw for the translation there. Oh, the Deathly Hallows tattoo? Yeah, I know. Well before she came out as a psycho. So, there you go. Live long or die well. Yeah, essentially. They are not mermaids. I know you're joking, but no mermaid sirens in this house. You also have Pindar, who's another famous poet. More like translators of what will happen than authors of it, kinda to a degree. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Live long and prosper, Greek heroes. Are you mocking me? So Pindar has his hymn to the Fates, where he notes the Moirai as sisters, as was said before by Hesiod again, of the Horai, also known as the Hours, which actually apparently literally translates as something more like seasons. So briefly, the Horai, since we've mentioned one of them way back when, these are goddesses of the seasons and what are called like the natural portions of time. And actually in the Iliad, Homer calls the Horai like the keeper of Zeus's like cloud gates, if you will. They are said to be daughters of Zeus and Themis. Now the number of Horai kind of varies according to source, but traditionally it's recognized as a trio. And in fact, there are two options as to which trio of sisters they are. Your first option is Talo, Oxo, and Carpo, who are goddesses kind of the order of nature, and the previously mentioned Eunomia, Dike, and Irene. Now, in the Homeric hymn to Aphrodite, we see the prior of these trios and their origins as essentially emblems of like times of life and growth, aka what were called like the classical 3 seasons of the year, which are spring, summer, and autumn. Actually, speaking of Vulcan's Greek heroes, if the Romulans are space Romans, does that make the Vulcans space Greeks? More like, actually, the Vulcans are closer to the Romans, only that they kind of are like, Marcus Aurelius. They're like his meditations. So I don't know. I wouldn't really compare them to the Greeks. The Greeks are far too messy. So this first trio, say hi to Sleeping Peg.
Hi, Peg.
It's a good snore. You have Talos, name means to sprout or grow. She's the goddess of spring, of buds and blooms. She's kind of a protector of youth at times. You have Oxo, you have Increase, goddess and personification of summer. She's the protector of vegetation and plants, growth and fertility. The Vulcans are not nearly as messy as the Greeks. They're just not. Then you have Carpo, who means to bear fruit. That is the goddess of autumn. She's the goddess of ripening and harvesting, and usually is the one you see as the one who guards the way to Mount Olympus. Now, obviously I've noted, Hesiod in the Theogony has a different trio. And this trio tends to function as sort of law and order goddesses who maintain the stability of society. So you have Dike, who we spoke about before, this goddess of morality and justice, who specifically rules over human justice and not divine justice. That's her mother Themis. And Nomia, who is order. This is the goddess of like law and legislation. You have Irene, who is peace, the goddess and personification of peace and wealth. So long freaking tangent about the Moirai, but that's who he's talking about. They are integral to a lot of and to tons of other gods and goddesses, and are sort of part of the way the universe works for the Greeks. Klingons are closer to the Greeks. Maybe certain regions. The problem with the Greeks is there's really no the Greeks. You have the city-states. Again, the concept of the Greeks doesn't really exist. That's why I say it's really hard to judge. Anywho, that was the Spinners, the Moirai. Yay for long tangents. Tons of long tangents. Okay. But if he's one of the deathless powers out of the blue, the gods are working now in strange, new ways. Again, remembering, Theosenia, it's a thing. You never know if it might just be a god in disguise. Hedge your bets, man. Hedge your bets always. You're welcome, Becca. You are very welcome. Always, up to now, they came to us face to face whenever we'd give them grand, glorious sacrifices. They always sat beside us here and shared our feasts. Even when some lonely traveler meets them on the roads, they never disguise themselves. So it does seem, as much as I know, the gods tend to almost always come in disguise. It would seem, again, the Phaeacians, it is such a utopia. They are held in such esteem by the gods that the gods actually don't take disguises. Now, are they showing up in their full godly glory? No, because we know how badly that goes. So, they do tend to just show up and they're not trying to put on a pretense, which is why Alcinois, hence everybody is so shocked at like, who the fuck is this guy? Is it a god in disguise? But they've never shown up in disguise for us before. Hence we have all of the deep confusion of many of the Phaeacians here. And mild amounts of suspicion, probably, and this is what Odysseus is absolutely anticipating. The suspicion he was anticipating, without question. We're too close kin for that, close as the wild giants are, the Cyclops too. Alcinois, wary Odysseus countered, cross that thought from your mind. I'm nothing like the immortal gods who rule the skies, either in build or breeding. I'm just a mortal man, aka you. Hey! Mycenaean news in the chat. Ayo! Instantly triggered. Really, he's saying, I'm not a god. Don't call me a god. I'm done being in trouble with gods, so please don't call me a god. Same way to how Menelaus had corrected Telemachus to be like, don't compare my hall with Olympus. That's too far. We staying careful here. Whom do you know most saddled down with sorrow? They are the ones I'd equal, grief for grief, and I could tell a tale of still more hardship, all I've suffered, thanks to the gods' will. But despite my misery, let me finish dinner. The belly's a shameless dog. There's nothing worse. Always insisting, pressing. It never lets us forget. Destroyed as I am, my heart racked with sadness, sick with anguish, still it keeps demanding, eat, drink. It blots out all the memory of my pain, commanding, fill me up. But you, at the first light of day, hurry please to set your unlucky guest on his own home soil. How much I have suffered. Oh, just let me see my lands, my serving men, and the grand high-roofed house. Then I can die in peace. All burst into applause, urging passage home for their newfound friend. Hey man, did you enjoy the Hades and Persephone video? I did. Thank you. For those who don't know, Starlight here, Sarah Meades, as I say, our great Mycenaean news reporter, sent me the OSP, yes, Overly Sarcastic Productions, their Hades and Persephone video, which I got to watch in my own time, which was super fun. Is Odysseus putting off telling his story because he's worried about their reaction? Clover, yes. Because the moment he starts telling his story, he has to tell them who he is. So he's trying to hold off on telling them exactly who he is for as long as possible. Again, he wants to stay in their good graces, and he doesn't want to run the risk that maybe they've heard of him and don't like him, or for whatever reason might take issue with him being this great Greek hero and the guy who engineered the Trojan horse. So he's playing very cautious and here. Man, a mythological timeout allowed out on probation. Yeah, he is also very hungry, but he is being very careful to not reveal anything about himself yet. And then he'll eventually just tell his whole grand story, but you know. All burst into applause, urging passage home for their newfound friend. His pleading rang so true. And once they'd poured libations out and drunk to their heart's content, each one made his way to the rest in his own house. But King Odysseus still remained at hall, seated beside the royal Achilles and Arete, as servants cleared the cups and plates away. The white-armed Queen Arete took the lead. She'd spotted the cape and shirt Odysseus wore. Fine clothes. She'd made herself with all her women. So now her words flew brusquely, sharply. Stranger, I'll be the first to question you, myself. Who are you? Where are you from? Who gave you those clothes you're wearing now? Didn't you say you reached us roving on the sea? What hard labor, Queen, the man of craft replied, to tell you the story of my troubles, start to finish. The gods on high have given me my share. Still this much I will tell you. Seeing you probe and press me so intently, there is an island, Ogygia, lying far at sea, where the daughter of Atlas, Calypso, has her home, the seductive nymph with lovely braids. A danger, too, and no one, god or mortal, dares approach her there. But I, cursed as I am, some power brought me to her hearth, alone, when Zeus, with a white-hot bolt, had crushed my racing warship down the wine-dark sea. There, all the rest of my loyal shipmates died, but I, locking my arms around my good ship's keel, drifted along 9 days. On the 10th, at dead of night, the gods cast me up on Ogygia, Calypso's island, home of the dangerous nymph with glossy braids, and the goddess took me in all her kindness, welcomed me warmly, cherished me, even vowed to make me immortal, ageless all my days. But she never won the heart inside me. Never. 7 endless years I remained there, always drenching with my tears the immortal clothes Calypso gave me. Then, at last, when the 8th came wheeling round, she insisted that I sail, inspired by warnings sent from Zeus, perhaps, or her own mind had changed. She saw me on my way in a solid craft, light and trim, gave me full provisions, food and mellow wine, immortal clothes to wear, and summoned a wind to bear me onward, fair and warm. Yeah, dancing around telling how he really thinks about Calypso lest he piss someone off and screw things up more. Yeah, again, Calypso being a nymph and a daughter of Titan, she's kind of a minor goddess. He can't just outright bash her. That gets him in trouble. Yeah, but smart, clever Odysseus knew to keep his damn mouth shut. Yeah, exactly. Odysseus would so have a podcast. It's true. He would. Yeah, he would. And 17 days I sailed, making headway well. On the 18th, shadowy mountains slowly loomed. Your land. My heart leapt up, unlucky as I am, doomed to be comrade still to many hardships. Many pains the god of earthquakes piled upon me, loosing the winds against me, blocking passage through, heaving up a terrific sea beyond belief, nor did the whitecaps let me cling to my craft for all my desperate groaning. No. The squalls shattered her, stem to stern. Question about how old were the suitors? I see so many different ages flying around, so I'm not sure which is correct. Is Minnie, they ranged anywhere from like around Telemachus's age, maybe even a couple of years younger, to like as old as Odysseus. It was a whole range of ages. There's no like average. I swam hard. I plowed my way through those dark gulfs till at last the wind and current bore me to your shores. But here, had I tried to land, the breakers would have hurled me, smashed me against the jagged cliffs of that grim coast. So I pulled away, swam back till I reached a river, the perfect spot at last, or so it struck me, free of rocks with a windbreak from the gales. So, fighting for my life, I flung myself ashore, and the god-sent bracing night came on at once. Clambering up from the river, big with Zeus's rain, I bedded down in the brush, my body heaped with leaves, and a god poured down a boundless sleep upon me. Yes. And there in the leaves, exhausted, sick at heart, I slept the whole night through. And on to the break of day, and on into high noon, and the sun was wheeling down when sweet sleep set me free. And I looked up. And there were your daughter's maids at play on the beach, and she moved among them like a deathless goddess. I begged her for help, and not once did her sense of tact desert her. She behaved as you'd never hope to find in one so young, not in a random meeting. Time and again, the youngsters prove so flighty. Not she. She gave me food aplenty, and shining wine, a bath in the river too, and gave me all this clothing. That's my whole story. Wrenching to tell, but true. Oh, he knows exactly how to butter her up. Oh yeah, no, this is politicking. Odysseus knows exactly what he's doing. He's using very specific words for a purpose. Poseidon is super mean to me for some reason. Super weird. Yeah, so weird. Why would he do that, I wonder? How are life so torturous? But yes, these clothes are from your daughter. It's like, oh, but she behaved so properly. Like, truly a credit to you as her parents. Ah, but in one regard, my friend, the king replied, for good sense missed the mark, this daughter of mine. She never escorted you to our house with all her maids, but she was first you asked for care and shelter. True, that could seem bad, but, again, Odysseus can find a way to fix that. Olive oil, then. Your Majesty, diplomatic Odysseus answered, don't find fault with a flawless daughter now. Not for my sake, please. She urged me herself to follow with her maids. I chose not to, fearing embarrassment, in fact. What if you took offense seeing us both together? Suspicious we are, we men who walk the earth. Yeah, that is absolutely him taking credit for Nausicaa's idea, but he's using it to be like, you know, we men suck. Is Odysseus lying about the Nausicaa, asking him to not travel with her to keep in Nausicaa's good graces or butter up her parents more, or both? He's doing it to butter up her parents to be like, but it also makes him seem even more like proper. Like, you are a trustworthy man. Our daughter obviously offered to bring you in, but you didn't want to seem shady. You wanted this all to be done properly. You didn't want any talk to come. You didn't want my daughter to get in trouble. So he's flattering Nausicaa, which is in turn flattering Cleos and Arete, but also making himself seem trustworthy. As he says, you know how we men are, basically. Trash, can't trust us. It's ancient Greece. Sorry, no offense to the dudes in the chat. In ancient Greece, you ain't trusting nobody. Yeah. Finally, mortal humans. I know how to work this crowd and not get murdered. Yeah. Odysseus is a notably good talker. Him saying, God, don't men suck. Yeah, basically. Oh no, my friend. Cleos stated flatly. I'm hardly a man for reckless, idle anger. Balance is best in all things. Whoops, you could have accidentally almost insulted him there, Odysseus. Father Zeus, Athena, and Lord Apollo, if only, seeing the man you are, seeing we think as one, you could wed my daughter and be my son-in-law, and stay right here with us. I'd give you a house and great wealth, if you chose to stay, that is. No Phaeacian would hold you back by force. The curse of Father Zeus on such a thing. This is a test. Remember that tests are a massive theme, if you will, in the Odyssey. Obviously, you get later things like the test of shooting through the 12 axes. This is a test. I mean, Odysseus saying here, I would never, do something to seem untrustworthy. Obviously, I have no designs on your daughter. I'm claiming all these things. So he's like, okay. Well, you've obviously seen how fucking rich we are. So if I offer you my daughter in marriage in this way, what say you to that? He's essentially trying to suss out Odysseus. This means that what Odysseus is going to be doing here, he's speaking very specifically. He's doing a kind of delicate dance because he absolutely wants to keep these guys on his side because he needs to get home, right? Wouldn't be an ancient Greek quest without tests and trials. Yes, but in this case, of all things, the test and trial is, how about you be our son-in-law? But we're also sussing you out, like, who are you? That's why they say he states it flatly. And about your convey home, you rest assured. I've chosen the day and I decree it is tomorrow. And all that voyage long you'll lie in a deep sleep while my men sail you on through calm and gentle tides till you reach your land and house. Yeah, don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. What'd you say about that? I'm married. True, even if landfall lies more distant than Euboea, off at the edge of the world. So Euboea is a long, narrow island. It's kind of off the eastern coast of Greece. Now, considering it said that the Phaeacians who live in this utopia, it's supposed to be far in the west, a place like Euboea would seem like off at the edge of the world to them, which God only imagine when he says, so I went to Troy, which is even further east. So say our crews, at least, who saw it once, that time they carried the gold-haired Radamanthis out to visit Tityus, son of Mother Earth. So, Radamanthis. Radamanthis. He is a king of Crete, who later becomes a judge of the underworld, very famously. He's said to be a son of Zeus and Europa. He's also said to be a brother of Sarpedon and Minos. Yes, King Minos of the Minotaur, Theseus, all that jazz. Yes, Radamanthus mentioned. However, what's actually interesting, there's another version. It's written by a later writer called Pausanias, who actually tries to write him as a son of Hephaestus. Now, Plato notes Radamanthus is known as the justest, the most just, if you will, of men, and he is an administrator of justice. There's actually numerous references across the ages in all over ancient Greece to various what are called laws of Radamanthus, including one, at least in Crete, it was ordered that Cretans had to swear oaths by animals. And there was another one that basically said if people defend themselves against others who have actually initiated violence, then the people who are defending themselves should suffer no penalty for their actions. Essentially, he was advocating self-defense as an idea. So that was considered one of the many sort of like a law of Radamanthis. Your video's been 2 minutes behind the stream for who knows how long. Oh no, man. Now, Homer, as we will see later, is going to portray Radamanthis as dwelling in the Elysian fields. Now, Pindar notes him as the sole judge of the dead, so there's only one. He's also seems to be kind of working together with Kronos, who at that point is also kind of managing the Elysian fields, it seems. But Plato calls him one of 3 judges, and the other 2 judges being his own brother Minos and Aeacus, who is the father of Peleus, and Telamon. Specifically in the Georgias, or the Georgics by Plato, Radamanthis judges the souls of Easterners, Aeacus judges the souls of Westerners, and Minos basically has what's called the casting vote, which is essentially the tiebreak vote. And also Tityos, who is the person they say Radamanthis was going to see, the person that we're mentioning, is a giant son of Zeus and a mortal princess named Elara, who is known as kind of one of the big great sinners of Greek myth. So Zeus hid poor Elara from Hera by placing her deep within the earth. But Tityos actually grew so large that he brace yourself for body horror. He split his mother's womb and basically had to be carried to term by Gaia. Yeah. Achilles and Ajax are cousins, oh my god. Yo, yeah. Most of the Greek heroes are somehow related. Most of them. A lot of them, actually. Why did Zeus not have a good relationship with Ares? Nobody had a good relationship with Ares, except for Aphrodite. Ares is just kind of looked down upon by the other gods because he's wild and vulgar in a way. Zeus just looks at him and basically sees disappointment. Yeah, sorry for the body horror there. So he's carried to term by Gaia. Now, the reason he's considered... Why did Greeks make gods that are siblings get together? Because with the gods, it's not really incest in that way. Because they're divine and they live forever. I mean, ultimately, they're all gonna end up being related, so it's not that unusual to them. It's not the same as mortals doing it because mortals die. So, the reason that Tityos is considered one of the great sinners is he attempts to S.A. Leto, who is the mother of Artemis and Apollo, and so he ends up slain by Artemis and Apollo. Yeah. And yes, please no stories from 6. Spoilers. I haven't gotten to it yet, and when I'm done with Epic Animatics, I'll be getting to it. Now, we will see Tityos later in the Odyssey when we get to the Underworld. But spoilers for how we'll see him in the Underworld, he is obviously punished. He is one of those great sinners. It is that he is stretched out over across 9 acres, which tells you how huge he is. And he's tortured by 2 vultures that come and eternally pick at and eat his liver, which, yes, is very akin to Prometheus's rather infamous punishment. Because Greek lineage is a bush. It's really more that they're gods and they live forever. It's not the same for them as it is for mortals who live and die. What is it with vultures and livers? They like it. It's tasty. It's painful. Prometheus did nothing wrong. Zeus is a tick. All right. But that's Radamanthis and Tityos, who he was going to meet in that story that Alcinous is telling. So kind of sailing out to the edges of the known world. Peg, please give me 1 second. Imagine there they sailed and came back. Imagine there they sailed and back they came in the same day. Again, these ships fast as fuck. They're magic. Yay. They finished the homeward run with no strain at all. You'll see for yourself how far they top the best, my ships and their young shipmates, tossing up the white caps with their oars. So he vowed, and the long-enduring great Odysseus glowed with joy, and raised a prayer and called the god by name. Father Zeus on high, may the king fulfill his promises one and all. Then his fame would ring through the fertile earth and never die, and I should reach my native land at last. This fame that rings through the fertile earth and never dies. That's Cleos, Song of Glory. Yay. And now, as the two men exchanged their hopes, the white-armed queen instructed her palace maids to make a bed in the porch's shelter, lay down some heavy purple throws, purple, for the bed itself. Over it spread some blankets, thick woolly robes, a warm covering laid atop. Torches in hand, they left the hall and fell to work at once, briskly prepared a good, snug resting place. And then returned to Odysseus, urged the guest, "Up, friend, time for sleep, your bed is made." How welcome the thought of sleep to that man now. And after many trials, Odysseus lay at rest, on a corded bed inside the echoing colonnade. Alcinous slept in chambers deep in his lofty house, where the queen, his wife, arranged and shared their bed. And that is the end of chapter 7. Tomorrow we will hardcore party with the Phaeacians. That is, as it says, a day for songs and contests. Yeah, they got purple throws level rich. Snug. It is a good word. Yes, the liver regenerates, so they get constant treats. I mean, also, these are characters that are usually kind of perceived to be immortal, although in the case of Tytios, it is, he's basically in Tartarus being punished. So yeah, it will regenerate, because that's his punishment. Ain't no party like a Phaeacian party. It's true. Questions on book 7 of the Odyssey. Excuse you, you going to lie down now? Thank you. There we go. Yeah, he partying with the rich Greeks. Exactly. And he partying in the utopia with all their extra stuff. Yeah, Phaeacians, adopt me, please. Aw, thanks, dork. Okay, Clever. What does coped and crowned with palisades of stakes? Palisades of stakes. I almost want to say something like spires, but this is architecture. What is let's see if I can get an image. Oh, high walls, I think. Palisades of stakes. Talking about high walls. It's emphasizing he's got a whole bunch of like walls and fortification. Again, the whole thing with the Phaeacians, they built all these walls basically to keep people out. So I think that's what he's getting at there, though. Yes, defensive wall. Okay, good. I'm not a master of architecture, but I had to go know what that looked at, and then it made sense. We export culture. We don't import. Yeah, that's kind of the Phaeacians. Again, very insular, don't want to be bothered. Covered with a coping. Yeah. Well, you have to know what a coping is. That doesn't help. Coped. Yeah. Hello, Birchwood. Good to see you here. Yeah, his luck is finally looking up. This is the turning around point for Odysseus. This is where it all starts coming together. It all starts kind of going his way. Dressed, of course, sloping. Okay, so like sloping walls. Yeah, just high walls. Clever. Any other questions? Yeah, covered and surrounded by walls. Things are coming up, Odysseus. Exactly. Excuse you. I see you, Jake. When Athena is in disguise, she says that Odysseus needs to win over the queen to get home. Would that not have been a clue that she wasn't actually a random little girl? Not necessarily. One, Nausicaa gave him kind of similar advice, and it could just be that obviously her name, meaning she's someone who like the people prayed for and who they love. It seems that she's just a queen who's known to many of the people. And also Athena in disguise is saying, oh yes, my like noble father lives like right next door. So she is probably potentially from a kind of noble family. She has probably met the queen and knows her. So it's not really a good hint that she's a god in disguise. Now, zipping away real fast over to Athens after talking, that's the giveaway that she's a god in disguise. Yeah. How did you get in here? Yeah, exactly. It is even more wild. Like, how did you get in here? Hence the shocked silence. Is the heart of the house close to where they eat? Because Odie went straight for the ashes for pity points. Kind of just depends on how the palace was built. I mean, obviously all palaces are going to have their own unique architecture. So this where he essentially went is like the big grand meeting hall. Usually a palace will have some kind of grand meeting hall, which is where a lot of people tend to, they'll hang out, they'll mill about. It's where you have feasts, you're entertaining guests. We will see that again when we go to, when we get to the slaughter of the suitors, that is where most of the actual slaughter of the suitors takes place, is in this grand hall that is in Odysseus's palace. So it's not really like it's the heart of the house, but I guess you could maybe call it that. It's just sort of the place where most people are gathered, usually at any given time. They mentioned specifically the king and queen share a bed. Was this the standard for marriages at the time? Did they often have their own beds and rooms? Why specifically mention it? It's just to show they have a good marriage, so far as I can guess. I would assume it was obviously very common for them to share beds, especially when it came to royal marriages, and really marriages in general. You are trying to produce children. You want heirs, continue the bloodline. So yes, share a bed. I mean, and also if you think of those who aren't royal, or noble, they're probably not living in a massive house. There was probably only room for one bed. So yeah, it's just really to show, hey, they've got a good marriage, they're sleeping together, there's no weirdness going on. Again, this is a utopic society, all things coming up Odysseus and roses. Yeah, the Mycenaeans, the Megadon Great Hall, Central Hearth. Yeah, that's sort of where it seems this is sort of taking place. Okay. Yes. You better understand. Yes, only just managed to get here. Yes, we just sort of finished the book. We're doing questions on the book, specifically on book 7. Yeah, the necessity of Athena guiding him there is that they are so sus of outsiders. Yeah. Yeah, and why she put the mist around him so he doesn't get bothered. Oh, did the unwittingly show him there? I will say though, with relation to did they have their own rooms, it was likely they had their own sort of chambers for where they do like activities, like again, like a room where maybe the queen would retire to do her weaving or whatever, though she would also then have more almost public rooms for that as well. So there is an element of they sort of have their own private rooms where like men and women do different things because gender roles, but they would share a bed. Especially because the wedding bed, the marriage bed is an important concept. Yeah, personal wings, it would just sort of depend. Again, it would depend on the palace in question. Is it a universal concept? I don't know. In individual cases, yeah, it probably would be. Is it a fancy bed? I bet. Did I do questions good? Yes, Clover, gold star for you. Those are good questions. We're happy to have you back too. We missed you at last book club. How much of the Odyssey do you think was made up by Odysseus? I don't have to think. It's the very specific books where he tells his story. All of this bit is not made up by Odysseus. We are being narrated to by a third-person omniscient narrator. Odysseus is not telling this part of the story. So how much of it was made up by Odysseus? It's however much he's telling when he specifically tells his story. And even then, I think he keeps true to some things, but I would wager he probably isn't so true on others, but we're not entirely sure. Am I in time for the end of stream? Wait a minute, how common, uncommon was the name Odysseus? He's kind of the only hero we know with that name. He's a pretty unique name. He's named very specifically by his grandfather, Autolycus, who names him for very good reason. Which we're gonna hear that story, so I'm not gonna say anything too much on it. Yeah, Eve, we're currently in the post-reading Q&A, so any questions related to book 7 of the Odyssey specifically, or really books 1 to 7, if you will. Portico and Pisistrata, so it was sleeping out on the portico porch area common. Yes, it was very common, especially because the climate, depending on the time of year, it is implied that we're in the good time of year where it's probably pretty warm. That was probably comfortable for them. And because most of the rooms of the house, you didn't always have like chambers, like guest chambers necessarily, even in a big palace. Angerbringer. Yes, his name, Odysseus' name has a very specific meaning. I don't want to spoil it only because, one, you can look it up pretty easily, but also two, it's part of a story we're going to hear later in the Odyssey. Because part of the thing with Odysseus's name is so much of the Odyssey they go through and don't actually give his name for like a good while. In the opening book at least. So his name is significant because obviously he's going to be playing around with his own name and sense of identity through a while. Take 2, what happened? Oh, we had technical difficulties. They're not really sleeping outside. They're still kind of in the palace proper. They're actually probably giving them one of the more comfortable places to sleep because they were, you know, getting fresh air. If this is, and obviously the weather is good. If the weather were bad, they would bring them inside and host them differently. A version of the truth, not outright lying, but definitely a bit. Yes, but there's only so much lying he could do because if he lies in certain areas about certain characters, he could get in trouble. Because remember, he is talking about characters who are divine in some places. So he can only lie so much. Yes, he does play around with his name. Name and naming in the Odyssey is incredibly important. Literally, my grandfather's book that he wrote was called Man in the Middle Voice, Name and Narration in the Odyssey. So like name and narration, all that, like that is a core part of the Odyssey. So just people named Odysseus after the character that we know of. Later on, potentially, but it's honestly, given the meaning of the name, I don't think you'd want to be called Odysseus. And to name somebody after, like specifically after the Greek hero, that kind of takes stones. So, yeah. Yeah, sleeping on porches or roof was very common before modern air conditioning, which hence we then get poor Elpenor sleeping on the roof. Yeah, so it's basically give them the fresh air because there's no aircon. The Phaeacian kings have gold statues of themselves at the entrance. From what I could understand, how much self-aggrandizing like that would be tolerated before it's sacrilegious? A statue of yourself is fine. You're not equating yourself to a god. You're not worshiping these people as gods. A statue to say like, the same way, well, actually, I shouldn't use the Egyptians as an example. But basically to say like, you know, I was here, this is me, I'm important, but they are never putting themselves on the same level of gods. So that's where the line is. If they were to start saying, you're gonna worship me like a god, I am a god, I'm on the same level, ooh, you in trouble. You in trouble. And also it seems that a lot of these statues and like were gifted by the gods, so they were thank yous in a way from the gods for wonderful sacrifices and parties. So. Oh, a temple in honor of a king? That'd probably be a bigger problem. Elpenor, I wouldn't think is really forgotten in terms of most readers. He's very important to the Odyssey. I would say most epic people, probably. Aww. Thank you, Clover. We are happy to have you back. Again, we missed you for book 6. 6. Yes, 6. I can count. And we're happy to have you back. We love that you come and you ask your questions. And we're just, yeah, happy to have you back. And we're glad you're feeling better. For those who didn't know, Clover had a concussion. So, glad Clover is back. Just statue himself, the same size of a god, and people were like, what the fuck? Exactly. Exactly. Beloved Peg funds and questions. Exactly. Yeah.